My boyfriend's son is going to be staying with us at my mom's house actually for some of the summer. And this past year, he got this little dog, and I guess he was asking if he could bring it. Well, since we're staying in my mom's house, she's a little bit allergic to dogs, and so am I, even though I had dogs before. I halfway thought, it'd be nice to have a little pup around, but we're going to be doing a lot of stuff, and we're going to be going back and forth to Utah this summer, and I thought, I don't know this dog. I don't know its personality. And what are we going to do with it when we're out doing stuff? I didn't want it just running around free rein in my mom's house, and I didn't want it trapped in a kennel either. And I just thought also, I'm probably going to end up doing a lot of taking care of it. And I've already got my great nephew coming too. So anyway, I decided to say no. It's not going to work out. And yeah, I feel a little bit bad about it, but it made me start thinking about boundaries and how we can set boundaries without feeling guilt. So that's what we're talking about today. Welcome to the Women Rockin' Midlife Podcast, soulful wellness to elevate your second act. You deserve to deeply love every moment of your life, living your best life with pure joy, optimal health and abundance, with the energy, time, and inner peace to savor experiences with your loved ones and with yourself. Hi, I'm Jen Kunkel. Join me on this soulful journey to complete wellness in midlife and beyond. Actually, I did a free guide a long time ago on how to say no gracefully without guilt and without hurt feelings. So I'm sure that you have had a time when you've had to say no and you felt bad about it. Or maybe the person's feelings did get hurt. Maybe you've wanted to say no, but you said yes anyway because you didn't want to deal with that guilt and hurt feelings or any kind of conflict, confrontation, things like that. So lots of people say yes when you really want to say no because you're afraid of hurting feelings. You'll feel guilty if you don't say yes. I get that. I just experienced it. And, I had to have this little conversation with myself to say, no can mean no, right? As women especially, and not just women, I don't want to be sexist like that, but women tend to want to people please. And there are definitely plenty of men out there who like to do that too. We can also have trouble saying no because we're just not used to it and it feels weird. Like we're used to accommodating everybody and saying yes, yes, yes. So when we say no, it's awkward and weird. But are you tired of spending your valuable time doing things that you know you're only doing because you feel obligated? I mean, it doesn't really feel that good to do things out of obligation. I want to do things for somebody because I just want to. That is mostly how I've been most of my life, although I have gone through phases where I'd get into a relationship with somebody and I would start doing things because I felt obligated. It's a horrible feeling. You really want to be doing something else. You start building up resentment and it's not good. You don't want to resent the people that you care about because you're saying yes too much. And they might not even know. They probably have no clue. They're like, oh gosh, I just asked because usually you say yes and it seems like you're okay with it or you enjoy it or, oh, I thought you liked doing that and I don't. So I just offered or whatever their reasoning might be. But they're just very used to you saying yes. So they ask you because, of course, it's easier for them to have somebody else do something they don't want to do. And maybe they don't realize that you don't really want to do it or that you're busy because you don't say that because you're not communicating. So you really want to be doing something else, maybe something for yourself, and you feel selfish. So you're doing these other things for other people because you feel obligated and you don't want to feel selfish. Maybe you start feeling frustrated because you feel like you have to do these things because other people expect you to. Especially if you're living with somebody else, right? they have these expectations, and it's constant. It's like a constant demand. Your spouse or significant other, parents, kids, friends, grandkids, whatever. You might have difficulty communicating your real desires. I get that. It happens. It's common. Or maybe you're so wrapped up in everyone else's expectations, you haven't even thought about what your own desires are. That happens too. So what's this hurting? What is it hurting when you say yes, when you really want to say no? You're thinking, well, you know what? It's not a big deal. It's making them happy. I'll just do it. It's easier. But it's actually hurting you a lot. It is a big deal. It's hurting your spirit. It could be hurting your health. And it actually could be hurting your relationships. Because like I mentioned before, you could get resentful. Even if you don't really notice it. You know, in the back of your mind, you're like, oh my gosh, can't these people freaking do anything for themselves? And then you wind up exhausted, disconnected, and bitter and resentful about responding to other people's so-called urgent needs. Like, Mom, I can't find my sock, you know? Wait a minute, you're 13 years old. You can look, what am I going to do? I'm going to look through everything to find your sock. Guess what? You're perfectly capable of doing that. Oh, we don't have anything to eat. I was guilty of that as a kid. Open the fridge. Mom, there's nothing to eat. Guess what? You can see the inside of the refrigerator just as well as I can. You know how to make yourself a sandwich. You know how to cook. So if you're losing yourself to the expectations of other people, they're getting what they want, but it's at the expense of what you really want for yourself. And ultimately, and you know, I'm not saying never do anything for them. I'm saying you don't have to cater to everyone else and disregard yourself. It's a balance. And you've heard that oxygen mask on the airplane thing. If you don't put your own oxygen mask on first and make sure you have air to breathe, then you're not going to be in any condition to help anybody else anyway. Life is short, and you do deserve to put yourself and your needs and your desires, not necessarily first, but on equal footing with that of others. You can put them first. At least get them to equal footing. At least make your own desires as important as theirs. So if you're saying yes when you really want to say no, it is most likely because you're just not speaking up for yourself and you're selling yourself short. And how do I know this? Like I said, I've been there. I've overcome it, I've had setbacks, and I've overcome it again. Saying no can be hard when we don't know how and when we don't feel confident. And here's another thing about saying no is often we feel like we need to have a reason to say no. And the reason has to be like good enough for the other person. We have to explain ourselves. Guess what? You don't have to explain yourself. I remember this one time. I used to totally be like that. I thought, oh gosh, if someone asks me to do something or invites me to something and I don't want to go, I have to have a reason. This is a little embarrassing, but when I was in elementary school, maybe about 7 or 8 years old, I remember one of my friends from school called me to see if I could come play. She lived, down the street a ways. It was kind of far, but I didn't want to go for whatever reason. I don't even remember why. I just remember, I'm a very honest person, by the way, and I've always wanted to be really honest, but I also didn't like any kind of confrontation. So she called me and asked me if I could come play, but I didn't want to. So I pretended to go ask my mom, but I didn't. And I came back and I just said I couldn't. And I still remember this practically 40 years ago. Well, actually a little more than whatever it is. We don't need to do math today. I just remember that I felt so bad about lying, not being honest, and not just saying, oh, no, thank you, because I didn't know. I was a kid. I didn't know to say that. And Actually, I was probably in my 20s before I figured out that I can just say no. I don't have to give a reason. But yeah, I felt really bad for lying or just not. I don't even know if I really told her. My mom said no, but anyway, I didn't feel good about that scenario. So I think of that now when I think about saying no. Like, I don't want to tell even a little white lie. I don't even want to mislead somebody. Here are some ways, the easiest way actually to say no is just say, no, thank you. That's it. That's all you have to say. And it's going to feel weird. It is going to feel so weird the first time you do it because you're going to think, oh my gosh, they're going to ask me why. And guess what? Some people do, but I think that's kind of rude. Most of the time people just accept your answer and move on. Or at least when I first started doing it, they did. I kind of feel like people tend to be a little more invasive these days. But I think you need to look at it like you don't have to explain yourself. And you don't have to get mad if they ask. Just be like, oh, just no thank you. You could just repeat no thank you if you want. Or you could say something like, I'm just not going to be available for that. Or I'm not interested in that. Or I don't feel like it. And those kind of things might seem a little off for you because you're not used to saying it and just being completely honest. Or, maybe it's something that you just don't want to commit to because you don't know what you're going to feel in the mood for at the time. Maybe somebody's like, hey, you want to come to a party Saturday night? And, you could say, no, thank you, or I'm not sure yet. And if they press for a reason, you could just say, well, I have a lot going on that day and I might not feel like going to a party. And I know how hard that can seem if you're not used to saying it. And you might have some friends who are pushy and like, oh, come on, you'll be fine. Yeah, I'll let you know. The thing is, sometimes when people hear maybe, in their mind, you're coming. They hear yes. So that can be tricky too. But if you're really, really uncomfortable, I have 4 very specific ways you can say no with absolutely zero explanation, even if someone's pressuring you. And the first one I already told you, it's no thank you. The next one, I appreciate the invite, however, I won't make it. And another one is I'm not available, or I'm not available for that. Here's another one. I'm not going to take that on right now. Those are like really simple, direct, and to the point. And most of the time what I found when I started using things like that is people just accepted it. Yes, on occasion, I would have oh, why not? So what do you do when they say, why not? You can just go back to another one of the lines. I appreciate the invite. I'm not going to make it though. Why not? I'm not available. You can just keep going around the circle. And you're more than within your rights to say, I don't really want to explain it to you. And some people are probably going to be a little taken aback by things like that. It just depends. But if you look at it like, wow, why are you in your head? You don't have to say this, but like, why are you pressing me for a reason? I just declined your invitation. It should be that simple. It can definitely seem hard to say no to the people who are closest to you. Let's say we are talking about a party, right? And you want to be just like really honest. You can say, someone asks you a party, you've had a long week. I appreciate the invite, but I've had a really long week and I'm just taking some me time. I've felt this way, and I know there's some people who will not relate and some people who will. Some people who will respect that response and some people who won't. Now, if you find yourself continuing to get pressured by the same people over and over and over again, well, you can start to evaluate that relationship, because that's where that kind of person sort of becomes an energy vampire in your life, and it's draining and it's lowering your energy. Now, here's the deal. The more simple and direct you keep your response, the easier it's going to be. And as you get more comfortable with saying no, when you want to say no, you can discern when to explain further and when it's best not to, because sometimes those explanations can actually just open up a door where the person's looking for the reason because they're going to try to solve that reason for you, and you just don't want to go. And sometimes you can just say, I just don't want to. My dad was notorious for being very blunt like that. Yeah, I would come, but I don't want to. Or when he's done talking on the phone, he was talking to my niece one time, and he just suddenly was like, okay, I'm done talking now. And it's so funny. I still kind of try to pull that one off. It only works if I say, my dad said this and it was funny. Even with a script of what you can say in different scenarios, you might still feel uncomfortable saying no. And that's because you also need to address the root cause, which is usually related to your underlying feelings of self-worth and confidence. So work on that. And one thing that will help you with that actually, and help you raise your self-worth, raise your confidence, and actually raise your energetic frequency, is my hormonal harmony quest. So if you want to get more information on that, reach out to me, or you can get on the wait list at wildsavvy.com/HHQ, and I will put the link in the show notes. Thanks for joining me, and I will see you next time.